Marvel is cleverly introducing a new kind of hero and protagonist to us, and we just haven't noticed it yet. Welcome to MythMachine. Today we're going to be talking about the God of Mischief, Loki, and why we love characters that we love to hate. Let's do it. While most Marvel villains get killed off or captured after just one film, Loki has now played a major role across multiple films and storylines, and his self-titled TV series was the most watched series premiere this quarter across all streaming platforms. Let me just repeat that last part, across all streaming platforms. That's Netflix, HBO Max, it's Hulu, that's literally everything. That is a huge feat and all the evidence in the world that Marvel has knocked it out of the park in creating a beloved anti-hero. But I think Marvel is doing something more innovative and groundbreaking than just telling the story of another anti-hero. When you think of the Marvel Cinematic Universe or other superhero franchises, anti-hero isn't the term you'd first think of. So what exactly is an anti-hero? In the vast majority of mythology and storytelling, the protagonist or lead character follows the tropes of a classic hero. They start off in a position of weakness, they face challenges, overcome obstacles, and by the end of their story, they've grown into a powerful hero. The MCU has an insane number of these heroic characters, and each one of them has relatable flaws that, while sometimes being represented by something fantastical, are things that we as human beings can see in ourselves. For example, Captain America, a man out of time, learning that there is much more gray area between the black and white of morality than he once thought, but he continues to follow his moral compass in the face of adversity. Iron Man, a genius billionaire faced with the challenges and consequences of responsibility and personal sacrifice, and despite his wealth and resources, he always puts the greater good first. Or we have Hulk, a scientist who's battling for control with the part of himself that he hates the most and understands the least. And in the end, he tames the beast and has fully embraced both parts of himself. And the list goes on and on and on and on. These classic heroes all face human challenges, but in the end, they don't succumb to them and end their journeys as better people than they were before. This has pretty much been the standard for a lead character. That is, until more recently. For the past 2 decades or so, storytellers have become obsessed with characters that are complicated, conflicted, and sometimes even just genuinely terrible people. These anti-heroes have become a staple in modern storytelling, and we as audience members keep eating it up. Unlike classic heroes who have strong characteristics of idealism, courage, and morality, anti-heroes are severely flawed and consistently make the wrong choices. They start off as an everyman, or generally a good person, and as their story unfolds, they become worse and worse and worse, and yet we still root for them. And we root for them because they're often a more truthful representation of what an actual human being is. We as humans may have these fantastical, heroic views of ourselves, or we may have the best of intentions, but more often than not, we act out of self-interest or in ways that go against classic heroic attributes. There are countless anti-heroes out there. Just a few examples are Michael Corleone from The Godfather, Tony Soprano, and Walter White from Breaking Bad. Most of these characters started out as generally decent human beings. We rooted for them even as their lives unraveled into chaos and they became worse and worse people. We grew to hate every move that they made, but we loved them for it. And while Marvel has tended to focus on classic heroes, they have also dipped their toes in the waters of anti-hero storytelling with Loki, who I would argue is Marvel's greatest villain to date. A lot of other villains don't have much depth and are kind of monotone, while Loki is almost always playful. Even when he's doing something absolutely awful, even when he's lauding his power over innocent people, he's constantly joking around, and it makes us admire his optimism. But it also gives us the sense that he's using this humor and confidence to mask his true feelings of guilt or unworthiness as he does these things. Loki originally started off as a decent person. While naturally mischievous, he really just wanted to prove his worth to his adopted father and brother. He's not the favorite son, he's smaller and weaker, and he's grappling with this revelation that he's adopted. He really just wanted to be loved.
I never wanted a throne. I only ever wanted to be your equal.
We understand Loki's frustrations and can see ourselves in his struggle with the feeling of being inadequate in his pursuit to be understood and appreciated. But just like other anti-heroes, he seeks to gain that understanding and appreciation in all the wrong ways. While he's doing all of these terrible things that we hate, we love him for who he is as a character and the bit of ourselves that we can see in him. What makes Loki an anti-hero and not just a villain is that he's doing many things for all of the right reasons. He's just making the wrong choices. He wants to be good, and he eventually takes that desire to be good and uses it to actually do good.
I don't enjoy hurting people. I do it because I have to, because I've had to, because it's part of the illusion. It's the cruel, elaborate trick conjured by the weak to inspire fear.
Even with the continued success of the ever-growing Marvel Cinematic Universe, many have started to complain of superhero fatigue, and while more and more anti-heroes have saturated storytelling, people have also begun to complain about anti-hero fatigue. But Marvel, as usual, could be one step ahead of the game. Just as they turned Loki from a villain into an anti-hero, they can now use the Loki streaming series to turn him into a new type of character entirely, the anti-hero, if you will. Loki has been in the anti-hero game for some time now. Ever since Thor: The Dark World, he's been teaming up with the heroes to help them on their adventures. This continued on in Thor: Ragnarok and culminated in Loki's attempt to save his brother by trying to kill Thanos in Infinity War. Now, with the knowledge of his entire future and past that he's learned from his time at the TVA, Loki appears to want to separate himself from his old ways entirely. And even though it will come with some struggle as his old ways will die hard, there are multiple characters such as Mobius and Sylvie who can show him how to do this. Mobius has faith that Loki can let his evil tendencies go and fight for what's right. Loki, it seems, may start to do just that and dive headfirst into his new glorious purpose. Sylvie, being a variant of Loki from a potential other timeline, gives Loki a third-person view of some of his personality and attributes that he wouldn't otherwise have.
Me, I presume.
This isn't about you.
God, now I understand why Thor found this so annoying. Listen, enough with your game.
He can evaluate bits of himself that he wants to let go of from a whole new perspective. And speaking of perspective, almost every shot in this series thus far has been an upshot. This is done by placing the camera below the subject's eye line and tilting the camera up. This is a classic filmmaking technique used to convey triumph or show that someone is a hero. It's a common shot used to show the hero in old Western movies and has been adopted to show heroes in modern cinema. In fact, this shot has been nicknamed and often referred to as a hero shot. And this shot is used so often in Loki that you'd be hard-pressed to find a shot that's not a hero shot. Watching it through, I think I've only seen a handful in the entire series. So everything in this show, from the story to the cinematography, shows us that Marvel is pushing Loki's character into new territory. We've seen Loki let go of his villainous tendencies, we've seen him become an anti-hero. Now it seems that Marvel is continuing to stay ahead of the game and evolve and change just as everyone is feeling the need for something fresh. They have a huge opportunity to break new ground with everyone's favorite God of Mischief, and maybe, just maybe, as he evolves, we'll see the rise of a new type of character that will be adopted in more storytelling in the future. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below if you think we'll see a new era for Loki, or if he'll end up falling back into his old ways. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate you, and I'll see you around.